With another real housewife joining from across the pond, I've long been interested in the excuse levied by LVP and other Bravo cast members on what constitutes as just British humour, and when does it cross over into an outright dig. With Jessel's cackling hags comment gaining momentum as another source of conflict, something I personally didn't register as seriously as the other women did, I became very curious about the linguistic differences and politeness scripts the two cultures diverge on. As someone who is British themselves, I know that the humour can be mean, but I've often thought that this was a vessel for British people to get their real opinions out. It feels like a no smoke without fire type of situation. I think the famous British reservedness may also play a role in avoiding confrontation and instead opting for a joke to dance around the issue while making others aware that it is there. While it feels that American housewives feel confronting it head-on or moving on entirely would be the politer thing to do, as opposed to integrating it into the friendship as a running joke. Cue Kyle in a confessional about LVP saying, "I thought we'd already moved on." In this context, I feel LVP didn't always want to admit how long she'd held a grudge for, so I can totally understand how frustrating it would be to be on the other end of this. I recently watched a very interesting TED Talk on different codes Americans use versus English people when it comes to politeness. It touched on the 1987 Brown and Levinson seminal paper, which expands on how different politeness scripts are used in different cultures and how this can create misunderstandings. In this video, I will be delving into these scripts that seem to be different for American housewives and British ones and see if it can provide a solid explanation for some misunderstanding, or if it is indeed just a thinly veiled excuse for being mean, as Erica says. I would like to start this by saying I am British, but I am largely shaped also by my Nordic upbringing, which veers even further into the stereotype of reservedness and coldness in our relationships and socializing. That being said, I feel I can still appropriately judge where some of the housewives were instigating something and where there may have been just a misunderstanding. I will be primarily focusing on Lisa, as she is who we have the most content from, with a small shout out to Carlton and where this leaves the Bravo audience for Jessel. Starting out with, what is politeness? Well, what is considered polite and what is considered rude is so innate to each of us as individuals that it often just goes unstated. In the Housewives universe, most of these kind of social rules are held as given, i.e., don't badmouth anyone's business, even as a joke, and keep the kids out of it. And there's not much room for understanding if someone falls outside of these rules, even by accident. The 1987 paper by Brown and Levinson, on which most linguists and sociologists base their politeness codes, explained that in social interactions we try to maintain face. You will be familiar with phrases such as keeping face or saving face, in which we mean a person's public self-image, their emotional and social identity, and the sense of dignity and respectability they want to maintain in social interactions. Politeness codes build on what face someone wants to present in a given interaction. Here, Brown and Levinson suggest we have two options. So we have positive face, and this refers to the desire for approval, admiration, and the need to be liked and valued by others. Positive face is associated with the need for inclusion, connection, and affirmation for one's self-esteem and social worth. And then we have negative face. This refers to the desire for autonomy, independence, and the need to be unimpeded by others. Negative face is connected to the need to maintain one's freedom of action, avoid imposition, and protect one's personal boundaries. This distinction is important, as this is where the main difference between British and UK politeness codes lie. The US is a solidarity culture. This means it's primarily focused on positive face. Interestingly, newer cultures tend to be more positive-facing ones, and older cultures tend to be more negative-facing ones. This is because older cultures are more likely to have hierarchy inbuilt into society as an unconsciously accepted standard, so in this case, the UK. So where in the US there's a belief that everyone is equal, so meaning, for example, if someone compliments you, you're less likely to accept the compliment, or you have to compliment the person back, or you have to let them know how they too could have the nice thing that you have. This is because in social interactions, everyone must stay equal, and it would be rude for one person to be placed on a pedestal above others and not try and bring them up with them. Contrastingly, in British culture, there is more formality, and because there's already a accepted hierarchical nature of society, There's no pressure to bring anyone up or down per se. A compliment is just a compliment in a way because our places in each interaction are prefixed. I think we see this a lot in the dichotomy between Kyle and LVP. So Kyle, after a conflict, seems to want everyone to be on equal footing again, while LVP makes it clear that they just aren't. She's either holding a grudge or trying to make it a running joke in their friendship to jest at what they had been through to get to where they are now. I'm still not convinced on the latter, so let's look at a few more examples of different communication styles to see if this could explain the difference. With negative face, so the British version, it comes along with an indirectness in communication style. So this could look like avoiding sincerity and hiding behind jokes, as LVP and Jessel seem to have done. This is because British culture has a much stronger sense of privacy, and so unabashedly pointing something out like that would feel like an imposition. Circumnavigating it with a joke allows for it to be indirectly addressed. If this is the theory that we're to go with, then it would suggest that in most instances, housewives, LVP, and Jessel are holding a grudge, and it's not just British sense of humour. The idea that the British sense of humour compared to American humour is meaner has been contested in numerous studies, but it's hard to outright say where linguists land as of 2023. Personally, I believe LVP was a big grudge holder, and cultural differences, even after picking them apart, don't seem to support her theory. As for Jessel, we see that she outright says she feels some tension between her and Erin when confiding in Sai about it, suggesting that her joke was indeed tagging onto the conflict as opposed to just British humour. One linguistical theory that I believe could be true is the difference in choices of words. So, cackling hags might be perceived more jokingly by a British audience than an American audience. I just don't believe it carried that much weight. Housewives have a history of picking apart someone's choice of words, so malufhuth. It wasn't the nicest thing, but I don't think it was as deep as it was taken. Then again, Adrienne is very protective over her businesses. Real Housewives of Beverly Hills women have a particular history of this, and it kind of rubs me the wrong way, particularly when they all latched onto Brandy for swearing. I find it very odd and hypocritical sometimes. To conclude on the case of LVP, I certainly think she held a grudge for longer than she liked to admit to, and passed it off as British humour. It was a veil she draped over her jabs. She was very sensitive to being humiliated, and I believe that was her defence. There's a lot more I would say about her, but I wanted to centre this video on linguistic differences, so I'll save that for another time. And as for Carlton, who I've been avoiding bringing into the conversation, she was slightly odd and eccentric, for sure. The women on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills were probably never going to embrace her because it's one of the most preppy casts, and I felt a lot of defensiveness from both sides. Ultimately, something I notice with newbies is they tend to come in all guns blazing, ready to start drama with anyone in their firing line. I feel we've seen this time and time again on Atlanta, Salt Lake City, Potomac, the OG New York. I've often wondered, where does this come from? Perhaps it's to prove themselves on reality TV to secure a contract. I don't really know for sure, but I find it super jarring to watch, as I think it would be better if they felt things out before going for the jugular. I think this is why Erica lasted, especially. On the other hand, perhaps it just really is the pits on those shows and we would all be kicking and screaming after a week. Looping back to our initial conversation, where does this leave Jessel? I think Jessel might just be a bit clumsy with her words, to be honest. I really think watching the season back, she'll take a lot away from it. Whether it is just British humour or not, everyone adjusts to the culture they're in to some degree, and I think she could be primed for a great redemption arc. In summary, the investigation into dynamics of British humour versus critique in the context of reality TV, exemplified by Bravo's cast members, underscores the intriguing interplay of linguistic distinctions, cultural norms, and social intricacies. Brown and Levinson's concept of face illuminates how individuals navigate their social identity during interactions. The positive face orientation in the US emphasises equality, encouraging compliments and rapport. In contrast, the British approach prioritises indirect communication to respect privacy. This exploration unravels motives behind cast actions, notably Lisa Vanderpump's potential grudge holding and selective application of humour to veil conflicts. Reflecting on Jessel's potential redemption arc, this cross-cultural clash presents opportunities for personal growth and mutual understanding. As British and American politeness scripts collide on Bravo's stage combined with other trigger points the ladies may carry, the conclusion points to a journey of self-discovery. Thank you guys for watching my second video. I'm really keen to hear what you guys think of it. Leave a comment below. Thank you.